So as we get ready for the IEM Chengdu group stage recap, let's set some time aside for your weekly It's So Over posting about Faze Clan, as they were one of the first teams to be eliminated at Chengdu, going 0-2, getting swamped out the server by Mouse, and then embarrassingly so, losing in 3 games to fucking Virtus Pro. The situation with Faze Clan is looking really dire heading into the major. On one hand, Twistzz is playing like one of the 3 best players in the entire world, but that's pretty much the only thing going right. Everything else is looking pretty poor. So let's peel back the layers a little bit and try and figure out what the fuck is going on with Faze Clan right now and see if there's any hope for redemption in the near future. If you guys enjoy this kind of content, you should by leaving a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, help me hit 10k subs by the end of the year, and lastly, let's go ahead and thank today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by Refrag. Refrag is the #1 CS2 improvement platform, letting you take the next step beyond shooting bots standing still to putting yourself in fun game modes that mimic real game scenarios. Refrag is my favorite way to warm up and practice, whether it's using Twistzz custom warm-up routine before I stream, or loading up private Nadar servers to learn utility with my buddies. Refrag has me covered. They also just debuted a new game mode called Challenger, which throws you into intense 1v5 retake situations that will challenge your abilities to isolate fights and clear sites in clutch situations. If you want to try Refrag for yourself, you can do so at the link in the description down below or the pinned comment, and the first 100 people who click it can use my code LionHeartZ for a free 5-day trial for Refrag. Also, that same code LionHeartZ is good for a 50% discount off your next subscription. So sign up today, and thank you to Refrag for sponsoring this video. Alright, so we start off this best of 3 series on Overpass, where Faze would jump out with an immediate 1-0 lead off the back of a Twistzz carry job. They would win 13-8, have an 11-1 CT side start, and then give a little bit of a cosmetic comeback over to Virtus Pro in the second half, before a Kerrigan 1v2 clutch in the final round sealed the deal. Twistzz went 21-3 for a 2.73 rating on the CT side. And out of everything that's gone wrong with Faze, he is one of the few things that has gone right. Twistzz, since he stepped back into Faze, has been one of the best players on the planet. And if you don't believe that, here are the numbers courtesy of Haka over on Twitter. Now, one obvious caveat is that we're dealing with a small sample size. Twistzz has not been with Faze for very long, and so we're dealing with a small amount of maps. But in the tournaments that have been played since he's joined, he is right now the 2nd best player in the world, tied with Donk for a 1.32 rating over that time. The only player better than Twistzz right now in this time frame is m0NESY, who is currently shutting every fucking hater up with every game he plays, something we will definitely be highlighting extensively in the main group stage recap later this week. The point is that Twistzz has really revitalized himself from what we saw at the end of his Liquid stint, and he very much is the best player on this team. It's just too bad that the team around him really isn't up to snuff. Frozen definitely keeps up well, but Jcobb and Broky, let's just say, for the sake of not saying anything egregious, it could be better. The brick wall that Faze are going to hit in this series starts on Mirage. This is where VP would take control and essentially not let go. VP are going to win this map 13-5. Despite the fact that the early game, at least in the first half, went decidedly in Faze's favor. They won the pistol, converted the anti-eco in the second round, they lost the first gun round of the match, which is really not that big of a deal, it can happen, but Faze bounded back and won the very next round to stop Virtus Pro from generating any more momentum. Where shit started to go wrong was the 6th round of the match. Faze are going to set up for a relatively straightforward B split. They're going to have 4 players towards the apartments, Kerrigan as the lone mid presence. Unfortunately, Kerrigan does kind of a lazy clear of ladder room and gets dropped to Fame right away. Fame drops down, takes the shot over into the B bomb site where he catches Twistzz trying to cross over towards the empty pillar side before eventually going down to Frozen holding inside the apartments. Jcobb decides to play up close on the trash can smoke and finds another pick for his troubles there, meaning that we find ourselves in a 3v3 post-plant situation. The bomb goes down, and as Virtus Pro rotates into position, Toro coming up catwalk catches Jcobb on an information peek from bench. I don't necessarily think that's a bad peek out of Jcobb, he just got punished for it, and unfortunately it puts Broky in a terrible spot. With Frozen playing the bomb in apartments, he's now landlocked in the middle of the bomb site, and he goes down in short order afterwards, leaving Frozen in a 1v3 that he can't convert. And this is only the beginning of T-side woes. We're going to skip over the 7th round because that was a save, kind of half buy out of Faze. We're now back to the next full buy round. Faze are once again going to keep things pretty simple. They're going to throw the standard mid utility of window smoke, a top cat smoke. They're going to feign for mid control and then fall back into a simple A execute. One player in Palace, the rest out A main, let's flash smoke and contact into A. Kerrigan's actually going to get an entry to open things up, which might look very good, except for the fact that Pro have cleared mid and rotated into this A execute very well, so Flit from the back of jungle is going to take a double spray down onto Kerrigan and Jcobb, and then Biz from the top of stairs with the op is going to take out Twistzz. Flit's going to get his third kill round onto Broky from the bottom of connector, and then Frozen is once again locked into an unwinnable clutch. Now, going back to the beginning of this execute, what really went wrong for FaZe Clan was a lack of utility. With the commitment of smokes towards mid, they're coming into this A site with only 2 smokes. They have to opt for this weird set where they're throwing a smoke for the top of triple box as well as into connector. They have to contact into the jungle players, and well, Pro are 3 deep in jungle and connector, and that's just overwhelming odds to contact with so little utility on FaZe's side. They essentially walked their way into a meat grinder. Now, I normally don't really talk about eco rounds too much, as they're really kind of hit and miss. Oftentimes, if players are winning eco rounds, it's off the back of individual excellence and less about strategy. But I want to point out that I think FaZe approaches eco round in a really interesting way. Instead of just collapsing into an all 5 B rush or A rush, they're going to maneuver 3 players in the bomb into apartments and wait. Then Kerrigan's going to go underpass, and Twistzz is going to take the initiative on a good timing to push through the A main molly and take space towards sandwich. Because VP are favoring very heavy mid control, a player in jungle, catwalk, and connector, there's only one player on A site who's playing back towards ticket. So Twistzz takes advantage of that to take this forward space and get a 1 dig out of it. Meanwhile, Kerrigan, because of that commotion caused from FaZe, gets a Tech 9 kill into the back of another player who was connector, converts it into a double before going down, and suddenly we're in a 3v2 with full control of the B side for FaZe and just 2 players alive for Pro separated from the bomb site. Now, if we pause for a second, granted FaZe have no armor, no utility, and no upgraded weapons. This is still by no means a free win. However, I do think that some unfortunate things don't go their way. As we unpause, Jcobb gets a very poor timing trying to cross from van to bench, giving Perfecto a free pick and the initiative to jump out as the bomb goes down. Jcobb, I mean, he has to try and play his life here. He gets caught out, that's unfortunate. And as a consequence, Perfecto knows he can push up onto the bomb site because Frozen has just been spotted in Murder Hole by Bist, meaning that there's only 1 player left on the bomb and Broky. Perfecto's able to isolate pure 1v1s in this 3v2 instead of the pistols on FaZe being able to group up and crossfire their positions. It fell apart at the end, but I really like how Twistzz and Kerrigan pulled so much attention away from the B site to open up that bomb plan in the first place, so I thought it was worth highlighting. Alright, we're now 4 straight rounds for Pro on the CT side. This is the first time that FaZe are getting an op in Broky's hands. This is their chance to really strongly break the momentum and make this a more competitive first half. Unfortunately, Fame is going to throw a wrench in that right away by fast pushing underpass, completely destroying Jcobb with a pop flash and deleting him off the server. And listen, this just comes down to you have to be aware that an underpass push can come at any given round. You need to jiggle this position or wait for a flash sound cue. You can't just sit there looking straight ahead, not worried about a flashbang whatsoever, because you're going to get caught out like Jcobb just did more often than not. And then we cut back to the A side, and FaZe are now just contacting into A with no smoke wall, not many flashes, a couple of Molotovs, and just getting mowed down. This round fell apart from the first because I'm assuming what they wanted to do was take mid control with Jcobb going into lower and then splitting A, and when Jcobb dies at underpass, that just throws a giant spanner in the works. Just a total deconstruction round from Pro. Alright boys, last round of the half. Maybe we can put something on the board, kind of stop Pro's momentum into the second half maybe? Alright, we're going to go for a little fast mid, a little fast cap play. That seems nice. Flit's going to break open the smoke and deck Jcobb for yet another opener. And then falling back for a second nade, Kerrigan's going to jump up in the window to try and take space. Catch a fantastic timing on Flit having just thrown that grenade. Miss entirely, letting Flit get the double kill. Twistzz puts an end to his reign of terror not long after, but the damage is already done for the round. Off the back of this mid control, Perfecto takes space deep into apartments, and Frozen, while trying to clear both kitchen and the couch, is unsuccessful in doing so, cutting things down to a 4v2. Toro and Biss with picks onto Twistzz and Broky end the round in short order. Just to give you guys an idea, heading into the rest of this map specifically, FaZe would go 4 for 14 in openers versus Pro. And when you find yourselves in 4v5s that often, there's no shock that you're going to lose that fucking game. FaZe went on to open up their second half on the CT side by losing the pistol round, forcing to a save on the round after, which means we come into a 4-10 scoreline on FaZe's first gun round. This is their last shot to at all inhibit Pro's ability to close out this match. If they're going to make any kind of comeback, it starts here. And unfortunately, an immediate double from Flit running all the way up mid through to connector instantly blows the back out of this round. Frozen tries his best to cut a pick back from Catwalk, but Broky gets hunted down in jungle, leaving Frozen and Kerrigan in a 2v4 which they have to navigate into a save. And this is sort of the other curse that Faze are dealing with. Their T sides are underwhelming because of entry problems, more on that in just a second, but their CT sides are underwhelming as well because Kerrigan, Broky, and Jcobb are traffic cones. Frozen and Twistzz simply can't do it all. This is by far Broky's worst tournament since coming back into the Faze lineup. He is the worst rated player at IEM Chengdu. Jcobb and Kerrigan are not much better off. Faze are at best playing 3v5 into any given round because their personnel is so inconsistent. As we move into Inferno, let's talk about opening kills and T-side entering, because this has been an ongoing issue for Faze even before Jcobb and Twistzz came into this lineup. When they had Elise, they had one of the best high-volume T-side entries in the entire world, full stop, so this was less of an issue. Rain and Kerrigan were by no means efficient entries, but that flaw was covered up by the fact that Elise was world-class. As soon as Elise steps out of the lineup, suddenly we have a massive gaping chest wound. Just to give you guys an idea, if you are a high-volume entry player, so if you average anywhere close to 20% opening attempt rates, if you are not at least successful 40% of the time, you are bad in terms of entering. So here are Kerrigan and Jcobb on their entry rates for the last 6 months. Both of them above 20% and below 40% in success. That is disastrous. Jcobb, full stop, has just been an awful T-side player. Any hope for this guy trying to pantomime what Elise could do is dead and buried. He's been given enough time, he is simply awful at this job, he is not a good enough rifler to compete, he's barely good enough to qualify as a support player. Kerrigan is no better, don't get me wrong, but the intangibles he brings as an IGL would not be a big deal if there was a high volume entry player on this team like Elise and a more efficient opper not named Broky, because the other issue with Faze's T-side entries is that Broky has refused to entry at a level anywhere consummate to any other opper in the top 10. I don't care if that's a passive opper like Zyro or an aggressive opper like m0NESY, Broky falls behind even the slowest paced of oppers in the scene, and I have the data to back this up. I put this out on my Twitter ahead of this video going out. Here are some other oppers in the top 10 versus Broky for the last 6 months with their opening attempt rates contrasted against their success rates. We have Broky for the last 6 months, who averages only 8.5% opening attempts on the T sides at a 61% success rate. Now, 61% success rate is awesome, but it's like being in the NBA and averaging only 2 3-pointers and you're making only 1 of them. Sure, 50% 3-point makes is actually really good, but if you're only shooting 2 of those bitches a night, it doesn't matter. Let's compare Broky to some other oppers. Going down the list, we have Zyro, who currently attempts openers on the T side at 19.9% of the time, with an overall almost 50% success rate. That is great volume and great success rate. It's why Zyro and Flamesy work so well. Going to a more passive opper in Sunpius on G2, Sunpius himself averages opening attempts at 16% with a 42% success rate. So not nearly as good as Zyro, but he goes for them more than Broky, and that matters a lot. Moving down the list, we have Zyro, arguably the most passive opper in the top 10, and even he attempts more openers on the T side than Broky does, and he has the benefit of playing with fucking Donk. In fact, I would argue Zyro is just a statistically better version of Broky, as he attempts openers at 13.9% of the time with an almost 70% success rate, 69.9 to be precise. Nice. I think you guys are starting to get the point, but just to conclude the list for some more data to put in your minds, m0NESY on Falcons for the last 6 months has a 20% attempt rate at 63% success. That is actually insane, by the way. That's less volume than Donk. Donk has the highest opening attempt rates in the world, by the way, shocker to nobody, but he's also averaging around the same success rate as him, which is really insane. Talking about more up-and-coming oppers, we have Molodoy on Furia, 17.6% attempt rate with a 56% success rate to go along with it. That's a fantastic spot to be in when you're playing with such a high-volume entry player like Yukindar. And then lastly, we have Twistzz, who has the benefit of playing with Xerxan and Brolin, 2 of the most high-volume entry players in the scene, and even he averages more attempts than Broky does at 11.6% and a 47% success rate. Now, Twistzz is certainly the closest to Broky in the sample size. The difference is that Mouse is a roster constructed where the entering is coming from other places. My point is that Broky doesn't do any entering to begin with, and there's no other good entry on Faze, so he should have to do more. Broky has always played like this, but when Faze were at their peak with Rops, Rain, Kerrigan, and Twistzz, that wasn't an issue because Rain and Kerrigan could take the lion's share of entry attempts away from Broky and allow him to flex more into his comfort zone. We're not in that era anymore. There is no more Rain. Kerrigan is old. Props is gone. Broky has to step up and be a more impactful player, and more often than not, the same exact criticism I gave to Broky all those months ago before he got benched, he is settling to be a support opper, and support op is the worst place to be in Counter-Strike in my opinion. The gun is too expensive and Broky's not a good enough rifler. He needs to get impact out of his op buys, and he can, but he refuses to be more aggressive, and it's very odd to me that he does so. The bottom line for Faze and bombing out of Chengdu is that it's a bad look. Faze should be ramping up to make a good run at the major. Faze are expected to be a team that competes, and with Frozen, Twistzz, and Kerrigan, they can build a good team still. Twistzz and Frozen are an elite rifling duo. If this team had a great opper and a true entry, then they could move Kerrigan into more of a support role and instantly be back into contention as one of the best teams in the world. And one can only wonder what this Faze team would have been like if they had been able to buy Simple after the Austin Major. Obviously, that door is well shut. But if Simple was here in place of Broky, and maybe they had a better entry player in place of Jcobb, Faze could be an elite team overnight. Instead, we're working with dregs. Jcobb has to go. Broky has to go. Will Kerrigan even be here in 6 months' time? Faze could be contending. Instead, they're stuck in just the Torment Nexus, where they can never really rise above outside of rare one-off fluke runs. Unfortunately, my biggest takeaway from IEM Chengdu is that it's phased down in a way that we've never really seen before, and I don't know how they pull out of this death spiral. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this analytical video instead of my normal recap content, show me by leaving a like, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Help me at 10k subs by the end of the year. Thank you to Refrag for sponsoring this video. If you want to be a better entry with the op than Broky, you can use Refrag to train your game to the best it can be. And if you end up wanting to get a Refrag subscription, you can use my code LionHeartZ for 15% off the next time you do so. Thank you to Refrag. Shout out to my channel members, Justin, Jesse Furley, Milan Berta, Bubblesj, Dr. Cocktor, Patatas Kaftesi, PTR, B1 Games, Cody Foxworthy, JesseTiv, Vegt, I'm Flashbang, Snowy White, Rowdy, LBKcs, Snax Enjoyer, ZeroTwocs, Chron, Gano, drudenae, Zyro, Devvrat Singh, Clyde Mead, and AlexF. If you want to become a channel member, it's the #1 way to support me directly for $5 a month to get me the video just like this, as well as customer community Discord. Thank you so much to our channel members. Follow me on Twitch TV /LionHeartZ TS2. I'll see you guys soon with another video. Peace.